there's no hope in negotiating or trying to have an amicable relationship with an ANC-controlled government. We passed that.
How do we create an enabling environment for mining in South Africa? This is a question that I posed to Hulme Scholes, a mining attorney, in a recent episode of my podcast, Solutions with David Ansara. What follows is a short extract from our longer conversation. You can check out the full-length discussion that's linked in the description below. Enjoy. So Hulme, what I'd like to ask is just about the role of the Minerals Council, the former Chamber of Mines. And that has typically represented the interests of established mines, and perhaps at the expense of encouraging more competition in the mining sector, regulation that is more liberalizing and creating more opportunities for new entrants into the sector. Do you think that that's an unfair criticism? What role should the Minerals Council be playing in advocating for a more sustainable future for mining?
They do obviously promote the interests of their members, which are the the larger mining companies. But anybody is free to join the Minerals Council, and they do really, really good work. And Roger Baxter, who's the chairperson of the Minerals Council, is a very clever and very sort of energized person to try and achieve the right things for the Minerals Council. My personal criticism of them was that historically they did not take a hard enough stand against the state, that when the cracks started to show, when corruption started to creep in, they should have been more aggressive by bringing more court applications, by forcing the government to do, by way of a court process, what they should be doing. That attitude changed. And I think the catalyst for that was the disastrous tenure of Zwane as the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. We all know from the Zondo Commission report his involvement and the fact that he was just a criminal placed there by the Guptas. Since then, the Minerals Council, I believe, realized they've got to take a harder view. This culminated in their challenge to Mining Charter 3, which struck out many of the unworkable and ridiculous provisions of Mining Charter 3. And in fact, the court application they brought to confirm that there is this so-called once empowered, always empowered principle inherent in the charter, the mining charter. So in a nutshell, I think the criticism that they do not do enough for the mining industry generally is not really warranted in the current climate. They are doing their best, but obviously they are often constrained by what their members want them to do. As an association, it's an association of members who have sort of vested interest. But as a general proposition, they're doing the right thing. They've got some very clever people there, and we need them. We definitely need them in the system.
Okay, but the lesson from the Zwane experience, and I thought it was very good that they said we can no longer engage in good faith with this minister. This was during the Zuma years.
Correct.
And I think that was very important way for the sector to push back and to exercise its power. But
correct.
My reading, I'm not an industry expert, but I kind of see them almost reverting back to this consensus model. Then we have someone like Neil Froneman of Sibanye-Stillwater who's saying, well, actually, no, we need more of a transactional approach. We need to be equal partners negotiating with government, and government needs to recognize the mining sector's very important role. And we mentioned all the revenues that the state gets from the sector. So my personal view is that we should be much more transactional in our approach with government when we talk about business-government relations. What do you think?
I agree with you, David. And the sort of migration from a more amicable approach to a more transactional approach and more confrontational approach with the state did come from the Zwane area, the Zwane era. I think that people were so relieved just to get rid of Zwane and see him replaced by Mantashe that we sort of we transitioned to a more amicable approach. But that is now also proving to not have the results that we were hoping for. And I see us going back to a more transactional approach. The Minerals Council itself also hardened its stance, and the charter litigation was actually brought during the tenure of Mantashe. I just think in this country, in all sectors, we've realized, David, and the mining sectors realized that the ANC is a party that cannot be trusted. It's a party that is just so riddled with bad eggs and corrupt people that there's no hope of the ANC, I believe, of doing anything which is going to resolve South Africa's issues. And there's no hope in negotiating or trying to have an amicable relationship with an ANC-controlled government. We passed that. And the only way to deal with them is through a transactional attitude, as Neil Froneman has called it. I mean, how do you negotiate with somebody who's corrupt and self-serving? There's no common ground. You can only negotiate with a person where somewhere there's going to be a common denominator. The ANC is in survival mode, and I think it's stealing as much as it can before it gets ousted. You're not going to deal with anybody. You're not going to have an amicable relationship with a political party who has the grip on government, who is in that phase of its failure. There's no point.
So could you give an example of how this transactional mode might look like? What would be, say, a typical scenario where the government would want to extract some concessions or some rents from the sector, and the sector could push back?
Applying the law, applying your constitutional rights to administrative review, compelling the government to do what it has to do. We've got a sophisticated constitution. We've got a sophisticated Promotion of Administrative Justice Act. We've got a sophisticated court system, and people are going to use it as the Minerals Council used it. You know, we don't want to be in a position in South Africa where applications for prospecting rights and mining rights end up in court. We want to be in a system where the government will administer, but we're not in that system. So we must force them to administer, unfortunately. That's where we're going.
Yeah, power responds to power, and
100%.
Business needs to recognize its institutional power. Thanks for watching. Why do you think that the mining industry is struggling in South Africa? Leave your thoughts down in the comments section below. Also, if you would like to watch the full-length interview with Hulme Scholes, that's linked over here. And for more in-depth, longer conversations, you can follow my other channel that's linked over here. My name is David Ansara. Until next time, take care.